That. Oh, you got something.
Steve?
That the first guy before he was doing it, he stopped for breaks and he should have continued what he was doing.
Right. He was very distracted by what?
The people talking.
Tim?
Because he was looking at a girl, but you can't.
Right. He was distracted by a girl that it seemed like he thought was really pretty or cute or he
Yeah.
was interested in,
You
right?
can't do that. You can't do that.
Which you may find someone interesting
You
at
can't do that.
work,
You can't do
right?
that when you're.
But when can you act on that? Michael?
Well, if you were in social environment, you can do it, but at work, you need to focus on the task. And I can see that you're stopping, listening to the comments that you're dropping. And that guy did not do that. He got the job done.
Right. Second guy got the job done quickly, made his boss really, really happy. Things were good, right?
Yes,
First guy was very distracted.
he was.
And what else was he doing? He was distracted, but he was also what?
Ooh,
Steve?
listening to their conversation. Listening to the
He was
conversation.
listening in on someone else's conversation, which is not okay. And sometimes that's hard to do at work because
Wait, here's
sometimes you're like in a small, kind of enclosed environment, but you can't keep yourself from hearing it, but you can keep yourself from acting on it or responding to it, right? Okay. He was also distracting the two women, right?
Yeah.
Because he kept going over and talking to them, right? And the senior lady, was she happy?
No.
No, she was kind of upset.
So
was kind of
get back to
upset.
work.
Yeah, she was irritated
Not here, so-
because the two of them couldn't get their work done because the first guy kept coming over and talking to them, right? Okay. So they made plans to meet at break. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's fine.
Okay. It's
When you're on
fine.
break, that's if we're on break. It's different when you're on break. You can do
Yeah,
other
it's
work on break.
different when you're on break.
Correct. But the thing that also happened was then he took a break that it sounded like wasn't really like a scheduled break, right? He just kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
At one point, and the boss was
That's
like,
different.
"Where did he go?" Right? So yes, you could arrange to, can you get off and go to lunch at the same time I can? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
But usually,
right?
yeah.
Like Steve, everyone at Subway can't go to lunch at the same time, right?
No, they had different breaks.
Right, they have different breaks. So sometimes you can't meet up at break or lunch
Nope.
because people have to go at different times,
We had different breaks.
right?
Right.
So if that happens, but you found someone that you would like to get to know better, what can you do?
You could say, "Can we talk after work?"
You could talk after work.
Yep.
You could ask, hey, which way are you heading after work? We get off at
Yeah.
the same time. You want to walk part way?
Or can I call you after work?
Would you mind, having a phone conversation?
Or I text you.
Want to meet for coffee?
That's
if
why I
you're a
wait till
coffee
after break
person.
to call people.
Want to meet and get cupcakes? I love cupcakes.
Yeah.
Okay, something like that, right? But what did we talk about last week about potentially asking someone to engage in some kind of
I wouldn't do
activity
that
after work?
immediately. Don't do that immediately.
Okay, give it some time.
Right.
Because you do have to work with the person. What else did we say though? If they say no, or I'm busy,
You
or
don't
I
just stop.
can't
You don't.
right
You don't
now,
try. You don't try again.
you could maybe try one more time a little bit later. They may truly have been busy, right? Okay, but you want to, also respect that you're going to have to work with this person, right?
Right.
And if you're constantly asking them to do something and they're constantly telling you no, what message are they giving you?
They're not interested in you.
They're probably giving you the message that that's not really what they're interested in right now, for whatever reason. They may have so many friends that they don't have time for a new friend, okay?
Yep.
They may not find you interesting for some reason,
Yep.
okay? They may have trouble making friends. Who knows what their reasoning is, okay? That happens sometimes. Michael?
Well, I also think lots of people have a crossing line when you're talking to someone, because when someone is getting into a personal with them, if they're uncomfortable, if you talk to them too much, now you gotta focus on what the job you need.
Yeah.
And especially with hiring for a job, once you get it done in a certain amount of time frame, because all the books all of a sudden need to be done in a certain amount of time.
Right.
And that guy, he did that fast. So any way he talked to the boss was very positive, but not arguing about it. That's the way you have to do it.
What do you think the boss's impression of the first guy were? Like if someone said, let's say his name was Tim, okay? You know, describe to me what kind of a worker Tim is, the first guy. What do you think the boss would say?
Not very good, not responsible.
Okay,
Yep.
not
Slacker.
responsible probably. I'm not gonna go with not very good because that doesn't really tell us something. Not responsible is good because he gave him a task and did he do it?
No, he was just a bit
Okay,
slacker.
so
and
not
didn't do it.
responsible. How else do you think that supervisor might describe him?
Slacker.
Slacker, good one. Not doing his job,
Lazy.
slacking. Lazy, he might describe him as lazy because, you know, he was gone for 5 minutes and how many books did he pull off of his shelf? 3.
Three.
Okay. Michael?
Well, so also the first guy's got his face was very slow in doing it. Because when you point it out, it's like you have to be very active with him, because then you make mistakes.
Okay, so you had to supervise him a lot, right? Okay. What about girl crazy?
It's not
Yeah.
good.
I think I might have used that when I described him because he was very distracted by a girl.
Girl gazer.
Okay,
Yes.
Julia?
Womanizer said, that's
Womanizer?
lady.
Yeah, raise for Kepler right now.
Started it.
Raise for Kepler.
Okay. Okay. So, not very good description of the first guy. How about the second guy? How do you think the supervisor would have described him?
He would like something. He's like, "Oh my God, he got freaking out when he got it. Like, oh my God, you got it all done." He said, "Like, thank you."
Right? So he was very.
Being a little bit crazy, like over thanking
Yeah.
him.
It was- I mean, actually, the guy hugged him. Should he really have hugged him?
No,
The
that's a
boss?
bit no.
No,
Kind
but it's a little movie for us to discuss things. So you know, we won't really harp on that. But
yeah.
he was productive, right? He finished it off. He emptied the entire bookshelf. What other words do you think his supervisor would use to describe him? Productive.
Proud because he got the proud for getting work done quickly.
Okay. He's proud of his work. Garrett.
Hard worker.
Hard worker. Good one. Tim, did you have something?
Yeah, it was excellent.
Excellent. Michael.
Not a slacker.
Say that again.
Not a slacker. Someone's not.
Yeah, he said not slacker.
Not a slacker. Okay. Yep. Not a slacker. Yep. He was very focused, right? He was a very focused young man. He got the job done. He was very efficient. Okay, he got it done and was ready to move on to the next task, right? So those are better ways that you want your supervisor to see you and to describe you. So sometimes when you're at your internship or at your work site right now, or maybe your service learning site, you know, while you're doing something, think to yourself, you know, if my boss walked in and looked at me right now, how would he or she describe me as a worker? And if those words that you're using to describe yourself are not necessarily good words, then you need to adjust the way that you're working. Maybe your productivity, maybe you need to be a little bit more focused. You know, maybe you need to ask for things to do. I know one of the things that happens a lot, especially at internships, is when you're done, sometimes you just kind of hang a little bit. Okay? When you finish a task, you should always go ask for something else to do. Or is there anything else? that
They may,
you'd like
probably
to
they
do?
may say no to you.
Right.
Ask that.
And if they say no, that's okay.
Ask a
Because
coworker.
when you ask, what does it show them?
What do you want to do it?
Yeah, that you took initiative to ask.
But-
It's not your fault if they don't have something for
So
you
saying
to
no
do.
repeatedly to you is not good. Them saying no to you repeatedly is also not good.
Well, hopefully if they're repeatedly saying no to you, then maybe, you know, we need to find some other things that maybe you could add to your task list.
like barefoot for me kind of. They always said no to me most of the time. They said
So those are all important things, okay? And being very careful about how you interact with somebody else in your work site.
Yeah.
Especially if they're of the opposite sex, is important, because you don't want your boss to think that you're just there so that you can meet somebody else,
No.
or you're just there to socialize, as in
No.
the video, it's not a social nightclub, it's a work environment.
Yeah.
Okay, you gotta save all that social stuff up for outside of work.
Right.
Okay, that shows that you're a hard worker, that you're dedicated, that you're putting your best foot forward, that you're being productive, okay, and that you're working as hard as you possibly can. Alright, those are all qualities that you wanna look for.
Yep.
Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
What if you have someone in your work site that is bothering you?
You need to talk to them about it, maybe. Could talk to them, or talk to the supervisor about that.
Okay, talk to your supervisor about it. What would you say, Seth?
Hey, supervisor, so and so is bothering me. Try talking to them, they won't stop.
Okay.
But
But
try to take care of yourself first. Try to take care of yourself first.
who should you go to first, you think?
Good supervisor.
Lou?
Supervisor.
Or maybe to talk to them first.
Let me ask this, okay.
And then
So-
go to supervisor, tell they
Yeah, let me
talk.
ask the questions differently,
All right.
okay? If Lou's at work and there's this girl that keeps going over and talking to him, okay, and is distracting him from his work, okay? Who should Lou talk to first, you think?
She's really keeping it in character.
We understand that, but if you're worried about your job, who would you talk to first?
I think supervisor.
Okay,
Yeah, same thing.
Alex?
What about boss?
That's a supervisor. Boss and supervisor are kind of the same thing.
I kinda
Manager.
have I have a supervisor and a boss.
Okay, would you say something to that person first?
Yes.
Maybe it really depends. Some supervisor might be uncomfortable saying things to them.
Well, it might make the person uncomfortable, but probably it depends on how you say it, right?
Yeah.
So as Lou said, if she's cute and he's interested, what could Lou say to her?
It's not the right time to be doing this.
But we could maybe talk like this.
Yeah, I enjoy you coming over and saying hi, but I'm having trouble focusing on my job, is it possible that we wait till after work? Right?
Right.
You could say that, okay? Maybe Lou's not interested in her for whatever reason, okay? But she's still bothering him, okay? Second scenario.
That's probably you should go to.
What could he say to her?
So I'm not interested in you really.
That might be offensive.
I wouldn't quite say that, but I just said like, hey, I got like something, and maybe.
Yeah.
I've always kind of believed that if you kind of say something nice and then give them what's the constructive criticism, it's a little bit easier for the person to take. So if Lou were to say, it's nice that that you have time to come over and say hi to me, but when you say hi, I lose my place on my work, so could you please not do that?
Yeah.
Okay, or when you come over and tell me hi, I get really distracted, and it's just one of those things for me, and it's hard for me to get back to task. So, can we say hi in the break room or whatever? Something along those lines is telling her, not hey, you're irritating me, get away. It's like, hey, I appreciate your friendliness, but I get distracted really easy. Kind of put it back on yourself. I
Yeah.
get distracted really easy, so I would do a better job if you didn't come over and tell me hi as often. Nothing on her, right? You're
Yeah.
putting it back on yourself. Okay?
Right.
So you say something to her, she says okay, she still comes over 15 times a day and distracts you. Now who are you gonna talk to?
Boss or
Your boss or your supervisor. What are you gonna say to them?
Hey, supervisor, so I tried talking to so and so because they're bothering you, but they won't stop. What should I do?
Okay.
that girl can get you fired, or
Say that again?
if that girl can cause you fired.
Okay, so go ahead and stop that one.